Gene Shalit, the longtime Today Show movie critic whose oversized mustache, colorful bow ties, and pun-filled reviews made him one of morning television's most recognizable faces, has died at the age of 100. His family confirmed the news to NBC News, saying he passed away peacefully after what they described as 100 years of an amazing life. A cause of death was not publicly provided. For many viewers, Shalit was not just a critic. He was a television character in the best sense of the word, instantly identifiable, deeply opinionated, playful, sometimes polarizing, and impossible to confuse with anyone else. He spent roughly 4 decades connected to Today before retiring in 2010, and his death closes a chapter that belonged to a very different era of entertainment journalism. But the question now is not only how Gene Shalit died. The more interesting question is why a critic with a mustache, a bow tie, and a love of wordplay became such a durable part of American television memory. For verified entertainment updates without the rumors, subscribe to Startline Entertainment. The latest confirmed update is straightforward. Shalit's family announced his death on Friday, June 12, 2026. He had turned 100 on March 25th, just a few months earlier, and today marked that milestone on air, with Al Roker looking back at Shalit's career and sharing that he was spending the occasion in the Berkshires with family. That birthday tribute now feels like a final public farewell. During the March segment, Today remembered Shalit as a figure who reviewed films, plays, books, and more. Roker called him a legend and pointed to the way Shalit could draw memorable moments out of guests, including a famous Carol Channing interview where Shalit could not stop laughing. Shalit was born Eugene Shalit in New York City in 1926 and was raised in New Jersey. Long before he became a television fixture, he was already writing. People reported that he wrote for his high school newspaper and for his college paper at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where he graduated in 1949. Before Today made him nationally familiar, Shalit worked in magazines and publicity. Associated Press reported that he started as an entertainment columnist for McCall's, later became senior film critic for Look magazine in 1968, and also wrote for Ladies' Home Journal. That print background mattered, because NBC's interest in him came from the way he wrote before executives had fully figured out what he might look or sound like on television. That part of the story became almost mythic. His longtime Today producer, Guy Ludwig, later wrote that NBC had read Shalit's work before seeing him, and that his appearance was so different from the standard television image of the time that there was uncertainty about how audiences would respond. But the same qualities that could have made him seem unlikely for television became the very qualities viewers remembered. Shalit joined Today as a contributor around 1970 and became arts editor in 1973. Over time, he settled into Critic's Corner, the segment most closely associated with his public image. When he left in 2010, he was one of the last high-profile film critics still appearing regularly on a major network morning show. That matters, because Shalit's career overlapped with a major change in how people consumed criticism. For much of the 20th century, film criticism lived mainly in newspapers, magazines, and specialized publications. Shalit brought criticism into a living room, breakfast table format. He was not just telling viewers whether a movie was good, he was performing criticism as television. His style was not quiet or academic. He loved puns, broad wordplay, fast opinions, and theatrical phrasing. Sometimes the jokes were groaners, sometimes they were sharp, sometimes they became the point of the review. AP noted that he could turn movie titles into wordplay, and that his reviews often mixed evaluation with performance. That style made him widely known, but it also made him divisive among other critics. People reported that Gene Siskel once told the magazine that he and Roger Ebert did not want to emulate Shalit's approach, saying they saw themselves as professional critics first, rather than TV performers. That contrast helps explain Shalit's place in the culture. He was not trying to be Siskel and Ebert. He was occupying a different lane, the morning show critic as personality. And because he was such a strong personality, he became easy to parody. Entertainment Weekly noted that Shalit's unmistakable look and cadence turned him into a pop culture reference point. He was spoofed on Saturday Night Live, Family Guy, The Muppet Show, and other programs. And he even voiced animated versions of himself, including Gene Shalit on SpongeBob SquarePants. That kind of parody usually happens only when a public figure has become instantly readable. The audience does not need much explanation. The hair, the glasses, the mustache, the bow tie, the voice, and the puns became shorthand for Gene Shalit. But the legacy is not only comic. Shalit interviewed major actors and filmmakers across decades. People's March 2026 birthday piece noted that his Today highlights included interviews connected to the original Star Wars film, including Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher, as well as memorable moments with Carol Channing and Sophia Loren. That is one of the reasons his death is drawing attention across generations. Older viewers may remember him from morning television. Younger viewers may know the parody more than the person. Film fans may remember him as part of the era when critics became television personalities. And today viewers remember him as part of a broadcast family that changed over many decades while he remained one of its most unusual constants. His career also included moments of criticism and controversy. In 2006, Shalit drew condemnation from GLAAD for his review language around Brokeback Mountain. People and AP both noted the backlash, and AP reported that Shalit later apologized. That part of the public record matters, because legacy coverage should not flatten a person into either tribute or attack. His career was admired, mocked, debated, and remembered across a long period of changing cultural standards. The broader picture is that Shalit belonged to a generation of media figures who could become household names through repetition, consistency, and a highly specific public persona. Viewers saw him again and again. They knew what to expect. Even people who disagreed with him understood the role he played. When Shalit retired from Today in 2010, the moment was treated as the end of an unusually long television run. CBS News reported at the time, but he was leaving after 40 years on the air. And then, Today executive producer Jim Bell described him as both a Today treasure and a television legend. That retirement came at a time when media criticism itself was changing. By 2010, YouTube, blogs, social media, and online review aggregators had already weakened the old model, where a small group of critics guided mass audiences. Still, he remained part of Today's memory after leaving. He returned once for Willard Scott's retirement, and Today continued to reference him during anniversary and birthday segments. In 2022, as Today looked back on its 70th anniversary, anchors revisited Shalit's Carol Channing interview and his role as the show's culture critic. His personal life was kept comparatively private. People reported that Shalit married Nancy Lewis in 1950, that she died in 1978, and that they had 6 children, including artist Willa Shalit and physician Peter Shalit. The family's statement after his death focused on gratitude for the life he lived and the extraordinary era Today represented for him. What remains unclear is limited. The death itself has been confirmed by his family through NBC News. His age, his Today career, and his retirement are well documented. A cause of death was not publicly provided in the early reports, so it should not be guessed or framed as known. The Startline takeaway is this: Gene Shalit's death is a legacy story, not a mystery story. The confirmed public update is that he died at 100 after a long career that made him one of the most recognizable critics in American television. The reason it matters is that his career sits at the intersection of film criticism, morning television, celebrity interviews, and pop culture performance. He was not the only critic of his era, and he was not the most academically serious, but he was one of the most visible. His reviews were built for television. His look became part of the message. His humor made criticism feel accessible to viewers who may never have read a newspaper art section, and his presence helped define what a TV critic could be before the internet changed the entire business. What should not be assumed is also important. There is no public cause of death in the early confirmed reporting. There is no need to turn a peaceful family confirmation into speculation. The story is strongest when it stays with the public record: a 100-year life, a 4-decade Today run, and a legacy that helped make film criticism part of mainstream morning television. For now, Gene Shalit is being remembered as a critic, a writer, a broadcaster, a humorist, a television original, and a figure whose image was so distinct that it became part of American pop culture. The mustache may be the first thing people remember, but the real legacy is the way he turned criticism into a performance millions of viewers could recognize immediately. And that is why, after his death, the question is not only how long he was on television, it is how a man who looked so unlike the standard TV personality of his time became one of the most unforgettable faces in the history of morning entertainment.